Commissioner time.
Hey, it's 4:30. Look on your thing.
Yes, it is. I'd like to call the May 17, 2011 meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners to order. And as always, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I will do the invocation tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to serve your people. Thank you for the chance to take care of this beautiful land, mountains, and the people that live in our community. Thank you for our work that engages us in the debate between right and reward, and help us to accept and acknowledge responsibility for those who pay for our work and those who can't pay because they don't have any work to do. Help us to strive for a healthy planet, to work toward peaceful, loving relationships, and to achieve our vision of seeing all people fed in body and soul, sheltered from the rain, and free from necessary fears. Hear our praise of love and beauty. Accept our gratitude for the promise of our children, and help us to do the right things that would please everyone. Amen. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by our board, it's the duty of every member to avoid the actual and apparent appearances of conflict. Does anyone know of any potential conflict of interest on any matter coming before us tonight?
No, sir. No, sir. No.
Then is there a motion to proceed with the agenda as we have printed it and advertised it?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Vice Chair Stanley to follow the agenda as we have submitted it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then we will follow the agenda as it is printed. Next order of business is the county manager's report, and I think we have Leanne Smith with Land to Sky and Sonia Frederick who is the chair of our nursing home board. So I'll just recognize you directly, ladies, and thank you for coming here and your good work.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm Leanne Smith, Regional Ombudsman, for Buncombe County, and I'd just like to introduce Sonia Friedrich of the Community Advisory Committee, who's going to give you the annual report for 2010.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I am Sonia Frederick. I am chair of the South team of the Buncombe County Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee. I got it all out. And I am also a co-chair acting as liaison with the county now. We're kind of dividing up the responsibilities. And we want to kind of give you a verbal report of the written report that you already have, just so that everyone else will be aware of that report. We make quarterly visits to our 19 nursing homes, and our 18 volunteers, and this is calendar year 2010, recorded 364 hours for visits or meetings, and traveled 3,155 miles to visit the residents in our nursing homes, which right now means that we have 1,829 folks that we can go visit. Now, as to those miles and those hours, I do know that some of our volunteers don't like to do paperwork, and so they don't turn in their hours and their miles. And if we could get everyone to record, it would probably be double that. But anyway, that's what we like for you to be aware of our time. As you know, we are charged to have continuing education. And during this past year, we had, of course, the retreat that the regional ombudsmans do for us at the governor's Western residence. I knew I wouldn't get through that one. And we had speakers from the state. But at our semi-monthly meetings, we do have the different topics covered. And for instance, we had the administrator of one of the nursing homes that we were meeting in explain to us how his resident council worked, which was quite interesting. Each home does kind of their own thing with the residents' councils, and I will explain in just a few minutes about our study that we made. Other topics: services for the blind, fall prevention, Alzheimer's information, and then after studying those ideas, we did take up Residents' Council as our major study. All of the nursing homes had someone visit their resident council after getting permission from the president of the resident council, and of course letting the administration know that we'd be coming. Then we had a meeting of comparing what we had learned from those different resident councils and put together what we considered to be the best practices to get the residents to totally be involved in the day-to-day running of their home, because that's what it is. And we have printed that in the newsletter that you get from the Land of the Sky, and that also was sent to the administrators, plus we've discussed it with them on our quarterly visits. We observe Residents' Rights Week in October, thanks to Chairman Gant, who provided us with a proclamation, and I was very glad that we had 3 of our residents here. It was quite a treat, I'm sure, for them. And there was also an excellent editorial in the Asheville Citizen Times. Just a heads up, this year, Residents' Rights Month is going to be the whole month of October, and we're already beginning to see what we might be able to do. The question of what problems we encountered, one of the things that we are quite concerned about is the ratio of staff to residents. And this is something that is set by the state, and our homes here in Buncombe County meet the state requirements. But it really is apparent that that ratio needs to be increased. One of our major grievances is the time it takes for call bells to be answered. Some of our other resolution comments that we heard concerning problems was like dietary complaints. That's pretty common in most of the homes. However, I just had a visit with my volunteers to a home in the south part of the county, and all we kept hearing was the food is excellent. And we did share that with the administration because it is very nice to know that they're doing a good job. One of the other complaints that the ombudsman tend to handle for us is what they call dumping, where someone is sent to the hospital. Maybe that person has been a bit difficult patient resident to handle, and they just sort of find a way to get them sent to the emergency room, and then they are given help by the social workers at the hospital to find another home. And that is something I know that Leanne and the other ombudsmen take care of. And the question about our grievance, we had one team that met, had a grievance with a spouse saying that, you know, his care for his loved one was not correct, and he wanted it improved. And the team met twice with the staff and family members and worked out a care plan that was agreeable to all. The elderly spouse was given a go-to person who in this case was the social worker at that nursing home. And I'm glad to say that the CNAs were given a daily care plan that they are following still, and pain meds were set up on a schedule that met with everybody's needs, and it is still, because we have followed up, the team has followed up, and they are still very pleased. The team members routinely do exit interviews with the administration as we leave, and if we have a serious complaint that involves the health or safety, we will generally get in touch with our ombudsman and ask them on how we should proceed. Other times we do note what we've either observed or, as I mentioned a while ago, the fact that we will notice how long call bells ring before they get answered while we're there. And if we notice that one rings above the 5 minutes that they consider to be adequate, we let them know. And it is a perennial problem, and that just takes us back to staffing. It really does. The strengths of our nursing homes, I feel, are great. We have good quality care in Buncombe County by and large. We have some dedicated staff members who have been working in their same home for 20 or some years. Some of you might remember back in the courthouse, we had I think 4 or 5 that came from one of the nursing homes, and they had been there 20 and 19 and 17 years, and I mean, that was just amazing, and they were so pleased to be recognized. We also have some dementia programs that are excellent, but we do have others that probably need to have a little information shared from the homes that are doing a good job. Weakness is outdated facilities, probably more than anything. It seems that the baby boomers that are going to be becoming available, well, actually already there are people in our nursing homes that are baby boomer age, and they have higher expectations, we've been told. And so we need to see facilities probably do a little updating and refurbishing. And the big weakness, again, I'm going to emphasize, is the long wait for help and the need for staff ratio change. We also need specialized care for our residents who have had memory issues or some form of dementia. And the example of that is your wander-proof locked units that will be able to have specific activities designed for those people. Some of those activities include things like adding kitchens so that of course, since women are, the majority of the residents, they can get in there and rattle those pots and pans, and it is something they truly enjoy. Currently, we have 5 homes in our county that do have locked units. And just so that everyone is aware of what those units are, Black Mountain, the Neuro Center, Bryan Health and Rehab Center, Givens Estate Health Care Center, Aston Park Health Care Center, and I understand from the team leader that the Baptist home called Rickman has just added a locked center. As to the comments that we would add, we do all know and realize that we have aging populations, and especially in Buncombe County and western North Carolina, because this is such a wonderful place to retire. There is a new program that is we are just beginning to become acquainted with. In fact, our semi-monthly meeting is it's Thursday the 19th, and we are going to hear more about the program of aging in place, helping people to age in their home and bring the services to them. And I think they say this is a trend that we're going to see more of. We thank you for our support, and we hope that you will continue your good recruiting that Kathy does for us, because volunteers are, kind of here for the day or the week or year, and then they need to move on to something else. So we always need a new group of volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I have a gift. This is something that we did last year. We gave pencils to the CNAs, and we thought this year you might like to have.
Thank you.
Thank you, son.
Thank you.
Ms. Friedrich, you've done it all. You've been chair of our planning board, I think, at one point, and nursing home. Thank you so much for your community service.
Well, I call this, enlightened self-interest.
We appreciate you.
This is great. She is. Good boy.
Next on new business, we have Kathy Hughes. We'll talk about our social media policy. Madam Clerk?
Yeah. Before I say social media, I want to remind everybody we have a new website.
Yes, and it's wonderful.
It is. I'm very proud of it. Glad I had a little hand in it. I just got to give a shout out to the people who are really the brains behind it. To UNCA graduates, Jeremy Twiggs, who's our webmaster, and Anthony Perrone, who's our graphic designer. And they truly are the brains behind the new website, done in-house 100%, while they did a million other things. Everybody around here's got more than one job, and we're proud of that. So we're very proud of the website. As you can see there, it's got Facebook, Twitter, Nixle, YouTube. Social media is front and center, and that is why we bring to you the social media policy. The social media policy is for employees. We're certainly not trying to tell the citizens how to handle social media. They know how to handle it. This is for our employees. And we're easing in. It's certainly a policy we hope will be fluid and changeable as we get more into social media, we get more used to it. But this, I think, will keep us out of trouble. We definitely want what the government puts out in social media, people to be able to have confidence in, that what we're saying is the truth and is the word. And so nobody gets confused. And so that's mainly what that policy is for, is to set the employees so they know who is governing it and how to use it, and so they're not in trouble and we're not in trouble and you're not in trouble, and the information that's out there is the information that we want out there. So that is really what the policy is all about. So if you have any questions, I'm here. If not, we would ask that you adopt that tonight.
All righty, Ms. Hughes. Any questions?
I make a motion we adopt the policy as provided.
Second.
Been a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Vice Chair Stanley. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. Next up, we'll hear from Sheriff Duncan and the fiscal year 2011-12 Sheriff's budget. Sheriff, good to see you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good to be here. Major Bissinger is going to come up and present you folks with a package, and contained in that what you'll see is our budget summary, our FY12 budget, the 2010 Sheriff's Annual Report that we put out every year, and you'll also see a letter in there from the SBI, which is Uniform Crime Reporting Data. What we're going to do and how we're going to undertake this is Major Bissinger will come up and present the budget on the sheriff's enforcement side and overall budget, and then Major Glenn Matiabas will come up and give you some finer details on the operation of the detention center, and then I'll close it out with as far as the information you have in your packet.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners.
Afternoon, sir.
It's tough times, and it's been a tough process, but we've worked closely with Donna Clark and her staff, and they've been a tremendous help in presenting this budget to you today. And for the most part, I think that we've come to an agreement on most of the numbers that we're going to present today. I think they're going to put a PowerPoint on for us, and we'll take a look at some things and present to you to give you some important information. First, in terms of revenues, revenue projections are slightly down for FY12, the money we're projecting to generate. Most of that's good news. It's in response to a lower average daily population in the detention center, which accounts for a tremendous amount of our revenue that we generate. And because the population's down, it's kind of a good and bad. We're not spending as much to house them, but we aren't generating as much either. Major Matiabas is going to talk to you in a few minutes about strategies that we're going to implement to try to generate some more revenue with our detention center the best that we can. We actually increased our revenue generation expectations in civil process, animal control, and some of those areas, but we had to decrease it slightly in detention and federal inmate housing to make it something we think we can reach this number. We certainly will try to exceed that number in revenues, but that's the revenue that we are projecting. We were asked to do a budget reduction, and we worked real diligently to do that for you. We've abolished 4 full-time positions. That would bring our total up to about 10 full-time positions in the last 2 years. We're operating on very lean times, and it gives us a lower factor for covering for illness, for covering for vacation. Our relief factor is extremely low. We have frozen 4 full-time positions for the year. So in a sense, we're down 8 more, or a total of about 14 positions in the last 2 years. The operating budget we reduced by $120,000. That may not seem like a lot to you at first glance, but the total reduction is a little over $500,000, but it's very difficult for us to reduce our operating budget. A lot of folks don't realize that 84% of our entire budget is strictly salary and wage. We operate only on 16% of that money. A big concern that I'd like to mention to you is we've held our fuel cost at the same FY11 to FY12, but that's going to be tough for us to do if fuel stays where it is today. We project if fuel was to stay what it's averaged the last 2 months, we're already $200,000 in the hole on fuel alone. The sheriff's office, the enforcement side, operates on $1.2 million. That's all we operate on. Over 500,000 of that's motor fuels, gasoline into the tanks. We're looking at strategies to see what we can do to reduce fuel usage, and we're trying to implement some plans. Met with county staff today to talk about some vehicle options that we might be able to use to get better gas mileage in certain areas of our road. We're also looking at some grants, but some things just don't fit our needs in the mountains, or they won't work for us as well as they might in an urban area and that sort of thing. We cover 656 square miles with sometimes 10 to 12 officers, and mobility is extremely important to give that feeling of presence and that sort of thing. So we do burn some fuel. So that's a big concern for us, but we plan on, the sheriff has discussed it and told us we're going to meet it, and we'll find the money and we'll trim in other areas if fuel stays where it's at today. So when you get right down to the brass tacks, FY11 to FY12, you know, the sheriff was real disappointed in me when I said, you know, our reduction is $527,000, but our budget's going to increase $1.4 million, a little over $1.4 million. What I'll tell you is that the majority of that, or $1.25 million, is just the cost of doing business. It's inflationary costs. As people stay with you longer, longevity benefits and health insurance to keep good employees. I read an article in the paper. I thought the county manager did an excellent job of pointing out that you have to take care of good, qualified employees, and that's where that $1.25 million. It's beyond our control, but it's money well spent. We're extremely excited that we were budgeted for workers' comp claims and unemployment claims, and that's included in that $1.25 million also. So when you get down to FY11 to FY12, I believe that we're in total agreement, the county and staff and myself, with where our budget needs to be. Probably the only difference is the part-time positions funding. Currently in the budget presented by county staff, it's not funded. And the reason is, I believe, and I hope they'll correct me, is in the past, a lot of times lapsed salary would be used to pay those part-time costs. We have a part-time cost of about $200,000. Unfortunately, or fortunately for Buncombe County, turnover is almost non-existent. In the past, we would have enough turnover by the time you get someone rehired, there was a lapse there and you would generate some income. We don't see that happening. We have 0 vacancies. As a matter of fact, we have 2 more folks than we're supposed to because of military leaves and returns and timing and those sort of things. And the manager's been very gracious to work with us, and everything's good. But turnover's way down. We feel like it's time to ask for that funding. So we are asking you to consider funding that $197,000 for our part-time folks. Some of these people have been with us 10, 15 years, far before Sheriff Duncan arrived. We really gain a lot, obviously, from some expertise, and we're only paying $10, $12 an hour to some of those folks for experienced, sworn, certified law enforcement officers. So I think it's a win-win. But we are asking you to consider adding that funding to our budget. The package you have includes basically 2 columns there of importance to you, and one is the county prepared numbers that I think we very much agreed on. And in the next column are some changes that are budget neutral. Major Matiabas wants to move some minor movements to better fit certain account lines. And then it represents that difference of $197,762 that we're asking you to put in the budget. Our hope is that at the end of the year you would get that back, because that's lapsed salary stays there. But to give us an achievable goal and for us to be able to strive to reach our budget, we'd ask that you fund it and we see what happens over time and that sort of thing. So we're very, very grateful for all you do. Tried to be brief. Or do you have any questions for me about the budget? I think I was mentioning to people in the lobby, it's really not much change. We're trying to just hold it in the road, try to be as fiscally responsible as we can. We're not asking for any increases in the budget line. We've come up with $527,000 in reduction, and we're asking you to consider funding those part-time positions when you approve our budget. Very good. I'm going to ask Major Matiabas to step up, and he'll address some of the issues with the detention center that we think you should know about.
Again, thank you very much for allowing us to speak to you about the budget and the detention facility. I want to address a few points. As Major Bissinger said, it was a good thing. Certainly one of the big things that we have done is the reduction in our average daily population. Starting back from 2009, our average daily population was at 431. 2010, it went to 396, and since January, it has dropped to 375. When you take a look back at 2009, that actually has saved the county and the detention facility a total of 15,295 jail bed days that we didn't have somebody in the facility. Even given the fact with the new construction that we've had and the opening of the central side of our facility, which our capacity is 604. So obviously we have a lot of room in which to grow. If you ask about, well, how do you manage the population? It's not any one thing that we do. Actually, it's a large group of people that do that. One of the individuals that's here today, Rich Munger with Health Human Services, is a tremendous support and gives us that assistance to go ahead and assist with that jail population management. Also with the folks with Amy Griffith and RHA, doing their jail diversion along with working with both the mental health and substance abuse caseworkers has been a significant factor in reducing that population.
Lynn, could you mention how that works real quick? I think the sheriff mentioned it once, but if you could just take a minute or two, how that
Well, they actually have a staff
works.
of
It's a great
4
program.
individuals that they work together with Amy Griffith coordinating those efforts. But what they do is they review all the people that come into custody as far as with their medical questionnaire, their medical information, specifically those that have mental health concerns and substance abuse, and to reduce the recidivism of those folks that frequently come back into the detention facility. We've reduced the length of stay to 9.53 days and have maintained that for everybody coming in the facility. As he talked about, we've had over 14,800 people coming through the facility this year. So what they do is they case manage to see who needs to be in jail, who does not, getting them services on the outside, getting case managed with them so that they follow up as far as the services that are available to them to Buncombe County. So while they're in custody, they're actively working on other programs for them. What are you going to do once you get out? So what is going to happen as far as what is the plan for you once you get out? And hopefully to keep those out of custody as well. And again, that has been a tremendous success, certainly for the detention facility. The other one also is the DA's office as far as with the nuisance court, and certainly managing the lower case felonies has helped out tremendously. And certainly Kim Gordon with pretrial, with their continual service to go ahead and come up with other programs, such as currently right now they're working on some electronic monitoring programs, which actually will be coming forward with some legislation also. We've also sent our detention officers through CIT training to help out as far as to go ahead and recognize a lot of the issues that we have with mental health and getting those folks out of custody as well. And one other big thing that we do is with our court liaison sergeant. We have tremendous support with the DA's office, the public defender's office, in streamlining those cases for those folks to expedite that court process. So, again, all those things working together certainly helps out as far as to manage that population, which they have done a tremendous job. One of the things that I also wanted to bring up has to do with future facility staffing. In the past, we've had staffing studies done by the National Institute of Corrections, and we've also had one recently done by the Justice Academy. But just to bring a point, one of the things that we are doing is we're reducing the cost of staffing and the need for more staffing if we were running a population of 604. Anywhere from about 527 to 604 on a daily basis, we would need additional staffing. The last staffing report that was done by the Justice Academy took a look at the staffing for 39 officers per squad, which was a total of 156 FTEs. Currently, we have 30 officers assigned with 120 FTEs. So it's a big goal for us, certainly, to keep the population down so we're not having to look at other increases that are on there. So that's one of our main focuses by managing that population. And then lastly, I want to bring up just a couple of capital projects that we've been working on through FY11, which the county has been very gracious in getting the support to get that done. The first one that we had was an annex at the annex facility. We had a security upgrade to that system through Simplex Grinnell in replacing the door systems that are there, along with replacing cameras that were quite old, much older than what we had at our existing system, and actually integrating both the systems at the main facility as well as at the annex facility as well. Some other capital projects that we worked on have to do with the video visitation system, which we just upgraded, and that will start July 1st. And we also have a key management system that has been automated for us, and that is currently in operation now. So again, we appreciate those specific capital projects. The last two items that I wanted to bring up to your attention, probably the most concerning, I know the county manager spoke about that earlier, has to do with House Bill 642. And in that House Bill 642, currently what is happening, any inmates that are sentenced from 1 to 90 days to the local confinement facility spend their time at the local jail. What currently is in legislation is they want anyone sentenced to 180 days or less to be sentenced to the county detention facility. Now, what would that mean for us? Last year, we took a look, and as far as what we sent to Department of Corrections, we sent 189 inmates to the prison system that were sentenced under 6 months. The problem is that all the hard work that we've done to reduce that inmate population, if this legislation goes into place, that's 189 more to add to that 375, which is going to take us above where we were at. We are very hopeful that hopefully come January that will be a progression that does happen if that's passed, that they don't send those folks back automatically. But the one thing for Buncombe County, we're in a very good position because we do have bed space because of all the work we've already laid before as far as managing that inmate population. Also, as Major Bissinger had mentioned, and I just want to bring the last point, is revenue. What are we doing about revenue? Because the population has been down, we have had to generate some new revenue. The most of the loss in the revenue that has come from federal inmates. When we first started early in the year in FY11, we were only housing about 18 federal inmates. We also worked to go ahead and increase the federal rate that we were getting for the inmates as well. We went from $64 per day to $79 per day, which certainly has helped out. But early in the year, through periods 1 through actually 6, we were only getting about $49,000 per month from the federal inmates in that revenue. The last 4 periods, we've been rather fortunate since January in actually getting over $100,000 each month. But we were actually housing anywhere from 45 to 52 federal inmates per day. And so the reason for that increase. You will see that when we budgeted the revenue on the federal inmates, it was based off this current year. But hopefully, if the trend continues and we can maintain that $100,000 per month, we're looking at about $1.2 million, which was much more than the $971,000 that we actually had budgeted for. Of course, the concern for us is what's going to happen with the legislation and what's going to happen when our numbers go up as well. So certainly a big concern about that. Also, one thing that we don't budget for generally, but we do get revenue from, is the backlog from the North Carolina Department of Corrections. This year, we've actually got $222,000 in revenue. But again, we're concerned as far as if they start having us house those that are sentenced up to 180 days, what's that going to affect on the backlog? So again, we've never budgeted for that money. It's just been extra money that certainly has come in that has helped us out quite a bit. And then the last thing that we also are working on is our commissary sales that we've had. Because our population has been reduced, that has affected our commissary sales and how much money we've had going into inmate welfare. We're currently working with 2 vendors and with IT to determine who we want to contract that services out for. And the reason we want to contract that out is it'll be about a 30% commission on all the sales, but what we won't have to do is we won't have to spend money on the overall operating cost to run the commissary, which with salaries included can be up to about $600,000. And it makes it very difficult selling sodas, selling potato chips to make that much money. So we should have pure profit of about $80,000 that will pay for 1 position as well as the chaplain that we have. The good news is also with our phone sales, we have a contract that's being renegotiated that is due in August. We currently are at 48.5% commission, and that commission now is going to 70% with Securus Technologies, and we hope to have about $180,000 as far as in our phone revenue, and altogether, hopefully, again, that's about $260,000 in inmate welfare. But again, to make that so that the inmate welfare is self-sustaining, and we're not having to put additional cost in that, as well as transferring positions that were in that inmate welfare account. So hopefully, we will go ahead and get that taken care of. And so even though the population is down, we have other steps that we're taking to go ahead and increase the revenue from the detention facility.
So the money from the commissary and phone and all that, is that in the budget?
It is in the budget from the inmate welfare account. You will see in there, we basically did a reduction as far as operating costs as it existed without the contract, because we haven't negotiated that contract as of yet. But once we do that, all the costs that you see for operating will not be there. That will go back on the vendor, and the only thing that we should have to pay for will be just the 1 person's salary that we have. And again, based off the numbers, it should be about $80,000 that we should make in revenue from that account.
Okay. An inmate that's non-federal, for every one that you decrease, cost how How many dollars?
I can tell you as far as the cost per day per inmate that we figured out. There's really two ways in which to really go ahead and take a look at that. One has to do with the overall cost of the budget that we have and what that cost is. I can tell you when we did that report for the federal inmates, that cost was at $107 per day. Now, one of the things that we did take a look at specifically based off the inmate population and the overall cost for 2010, it was $84.91 per day per inmate is what it actually cost us. One of the things that does happen, as your population is reduced, obviously the cost of each individual inmate becomes more.
Right.
So actually, when you have more inmates in custody, it actually helps you out as the overall cost per inmate.
Okay. I think I've got that right.
So, but really, as far as
The more feds you got, the more money you get.
that is correct. So that's the offset that we have in taking a look at that. So that 1.2 million, hopefully for FY12, is what we hope to have.
What's your
in-
capacity for federal?
Really, for us, as far as with the feds, there's no limit that we have on them. We used to have a cap agreement with the federal marshals, but now it's just an agreement that if I house one of the federal inmates for you, you're going to pay me $79 a day. Now, obviously, that's based off the other state and pretrial inmates that we already have in the facility, and our capacity is 604. But generally, around that, it's anywhere from about 45 to 52 inmates that we can house still and have plenty of room as far as in the detention facility. But again, that's still around 1.2 million in revenue to offset that cost.
And that's without adding additional people.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
There's a point out there.
Yes, sir. So as far as, and again, we've looked at other ways as far as to increase that, those numbers, so that we can go ahead and generate that additional revenue. But generally, one of the other housings, the largest housings that we have is 56. So we could, again, house up to 56 inmates and dedicate one housing unit, such as 3 Central West, to house all those federal inmates in.
Glenn, has the gender mix been as you expected? Because I know that we built the new jail for...
Actually, it's a very good question about that. One of the things that's been rather unique, and certainly want to recognize, Women at Risk is one of the other programs that we have. Our female population has dropped drastically. 2 years ago, we were at 90 females per day. Actually, the housing units that we have are 2. There's a 56-bed pod, and then there's actually a 40-bed dormitory for the females, which we can house up to 96 females. But we are averaging about 35 females per day. So I'm not quite sure the specific reason why that is, but I do think it has to do with a lot of the programs and the work that Women at Risk has done to reduce the recidivism for those females. So that's one of the big things we've had. The reduction, when you take a look at the numbers, has to do with females and federal inmates that were decreased in there. So, a good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Any
you
other
very much.
questions?
I have just a couple
Yes,
quick
ma'am.
things. So, in terms of you said you didn't budget for the state overcrowding or whatever,
Yeah,
but which makes sense to me. What is that kind of daily bed, reimbursement when that does happen?
When that happens, it's $40 per day is what the state
Okay.
pays.
Right.
What happens once you call an inmate into the state system, if they can't take them on the very next trip going out, which is generally on Wednesday or Friday, then they place them on a backlog list. And on that backlog list, they send that to each month, but we get paid $40 per day for every inmate that sits in our facility that is already sentenced to the state prison system. And
So they're just basically paying half the freight, where the county's picking up the other
That's
half the freight.
correct.
So, do you have any back of the napkin estimates? I bet you do, because I can kind of already see how your mind's working. If that House Bill 6 whatever passes, and and the worst case scenario kicks in, and we have to, we will increase, because clearly that's going to cost us money. So have you kind of figured out, like, worst case scenario for if that passes for our bottom line?
Yeah, when we took a look at that, it was a graduated level up to 6 months. So there were 189 that were sentenced up to 6 months. So it's not like it's going to increase 189. I would say it's probably going to be a graduated level, but it would say at least about 100 inmates more than what we currently have right now. So again, it's a big plus for us that we have maintained those things as far as reducing that inmate population. But I would say probably increasing this probably by 100 inmates per day.
And so what would that average out for an annual cost once it became
Well-
annualized? I know you said January 1st would probably be when it would begin to be phased in, but down the road, any idea about that?
I'm not quite sure as far as the annual cost on there for us, because as far as from a budgetary standpoint, there wouldn't be any other increases, because many of the things that we budget for is based off the current population that we have. So I don't think there would be any specific increases
Okay.
because of the staffing levels that we have, as long as we can maintain that below that 527 mark. That's where the biggest cost would come in, is we had to open up additional housing units and additional staff supervision based off those graduated numbers.
So there's this marker once we cross over, and then all of a sudden,
527.
cha-ching.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But I guess there would be some graduated costs in terms of additional food. I mean, not in the big picture, you know, the heating's going to cost basically the
Right.
same and all that stuff. So, well, I mean, I would just say that, you know, to please, if that kind of comes about, that in as you get closer to what that would be, that I'm open to kind of thinking about how to amend your budget, because if it's a big number, I really appreciate how you have really wanted to be accurate and tight with your numbers, and, you know, ask for what you need but not over. And so to kind of carry on that discipline, it might mean a budget amendment that we would need to, and we also need to know that's going to be happening for just the operations
Sure.
as well. Do you have, I was also, this is actually kind of a twofold thing in terms of just like, you know, once again, coming home to roost in terms of energy usage and how that relates to bottom line dollars. And, you know, I'm really proud to be part of Buncombe County, as we've done, you know, a lot of efforts to reduce our carbon footprint and also reduce costs, which is just smart. So, but when I think about the detention center, you know, I keep on thinking about the solar thermal on the roof to kind of begin to reduce some of those costs. Is that a conversation that, you know, you're open to or will have with some of our facility folks in terms of thinking out how that one operational cost might be? And I also saw
Absolutely, and we've
Okay.
done some of that already with Greg Israel already, as far as specifically working with Progress Energy to shut down as far as the building on certain days to reduce that energy cost. But
Right, right.
also anything as far as to reduce that utility cost, which is one of the more expensive costs that we do have, running anywhere from about $665,000 is what
Yeah.
it costs to go ahead and maintain the utilities for that detention facility,
Right.
along with the North Tower and the Central Tower.
Yeah, and I know there's like this lease option that is next to no output of initial cost if there's a lease back, and we could recoup it pretty quick. So I'm glad to know you're all open to that. A little bit off subject, but I'm going to jump over a little bit, and then I'll ask you one quick question about gas. But I see on the capital project from the county manager that in 2014 there's a roof replacement, and maybe that's more. And anyway, that might be a time to think.
Well, one of the things about that particular facility, anytime that you build straight up with that roof, it does leak quite a bit. So anytime we have any kind of significant rain that comes through there, we have tremendous problems as far as with the water leakage in there. And that roof is in need of some repair.
When was that roof put on?
Back when that building was initially built back in 1996.
Okay, so it's about 20 years. That's about right. I was thinking, okay. All right, great. Well, in terms of just the other quick thing, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's really great, and I've learned a lot tonight. In terms of the gas, too, could you say a little bit more about the exploration of kind of vehicles that are utilizing less gasoline?
We went today, as a matter of fact. It's odd that you'd ask that, to look at some vehicles that might give us better gas mileage, that might work for certain members of the agency that don't need a police package with a cage. You always have to look at some vehicles are available, but they don't make any components for them that would allow us to
Right.
use them. We'd have to get stuff custom made, and there's some liability involved in that. But we're looking at some SUV type vehicles that actually have better gas mileage than the Charger that we could use, and we looked at that today. We also had a gentleman come through our facility, and Greg Israel worked with us to have him look at some things we could save energy. And I believe our windows are going to be worked on tomorrow, and they're actually putting some films on the windows, and they project a significant energy decrease to cool and heat the building. So we're
That's
doing
good
things like
news,
that.
yeah.
We've looked at some natural gas projects where you get natural gas. The sheriff had directed me to look at that a few years ago, and you run into some complications when you look at the multi-purpose of a law enforcement vehicle. It comes down to one of those. It would work 95% of the time, but not that 5% of the time. How do we get around that 5% of the time where the vehicle needs to exceed speeds or do things? And that presents a challenge for us in handling and in things like that. But we're looking at smaller vehicles. We talked today about other alternatives where we could use maybe better gas mileage vehicles and that sort of thing. A lot of the technology that we've looked at grant-wise lately would help us to, they have items that, for example, if you stop your car and leave the blue lights on, you can cut the engine off and it switches to a reserve battery pack.
Nice.
Well, we very rarely do that. We
Right,
don't do a lot
right.
of traffic stops, much traffic enforcement, so that wouldn't be worth the cost for us most likely. But we're beginning to explore some of those things. And as recent as today, I had lunch with Greg Israel and we discussed some possibilities and some things to look at that might save us some fuel money, because it's a big concern for me in FY12. I really.
That's great. I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, Commissioner Peterson and I were part of, I guess it was back in the fall, that was the Mountain Mobility doing some conversion of, I guess it was propane that they were running on, and they had a little demonstration for a law enforcement vehicle, and it had some giddy up. I mean, I don't know if that's part of what y'all have checked out as well, but you probably have. But because I asked them about every which way I could ask them, are you sure, in that would have the acceleration that a law enforcement, and they said it would. So I had to drive it down Hendersonville Road. I was
The
not impressed
technology's
with myself.
coming a long way with the emission, and it reduces emissions. And we purchased our first electric car in civil processes. Put, I think, almost 1,000 miles on it. It doesn't have a long range, but we use it in the city to serve papers, which is our responsibility to do. And we need to look at more ways to save on fuel.
So y'all are on it, I just be interested
We
in how
welcome any
that.
suggestions,
Yeah, well, with $4 a gallon going up is a motivator too. So I'd be curious to see how that unfolds too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't even think it'd be a bad idea, Major, to have a section about what you're doing along those lines.
Okay.
Energy and conservation, reducing the blueprint. That's our policy, it's your policy. Wouldn't be bad to spell that out, what you've done in your report every year.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I want to thank the majors. They've done a great job. As you can see, it's very detailed work. When you switch from the enforcement side of the sheriff's office and civil process to detention, you're actually talking about two totally separate operations, and the intricacies of both are pretty in-depth, and I think they've done an excellent job in preparing in detail what our budget needs to be for next year. And I really end up getting to do the fun part. Well, at least it's turned out to be fun, because we've got to look at the big picture of the sheriff's office and where we've been and where we're heading right quickly. One of the things that I want to talk about is some of the funding that has come in that has alleviated taxpayer expense. And I'm going to talk a little bit about drug seizure forfeiture money and what that's been used for. But I really want to go back and highlight a county collaborative success in being able to manage that jail population. If that had not been addressed and basically taken by the bootstraps, so to speak, by Miss Green, by Rich Munger, by Mandy Stone, by Kim Gordon pretrial release, by Glenn Matiabas, and have some foresight in the DA's office and how we work, we would already probably be building another detention facility right now. And we know that's probably the most expensive thing that's going to impact our budget immediately. So that's probably one of the best things that's occurred in the collaborative work over the last 4 years. As far as talking about drug seizure forfeiture, some of the things that we've used that drug seizure forfeiture sharing on is enforcement overtime. One of the things that the feds allow us to, in partnering with this, they come out with a certain set of stipulations how we can use that money. And one thing they do not allow is basically supplanting the budget, and that's their terminology. So these are things that they do allow that we've been able to alleviate some taxpayer burden. Enforcement overtime. We've had some dignitaries visit Asheville, Buncombe County, and we've been able to use some of that seizure forfeiture money to pay that overtime for officers. Specialized training. One of the things I'm going to report on is the overall crime rate in Buncombe County. And I think one of the things that's had a big impact in that is the ability to specially train our criminal investigative folks, train our detention folks when it comes to jail management, our CIT training, all those things, and the monies and efforts that go into that. I think that's helped to define who we are as an agency. Training ammunition. The state has minimum mandatories that we have to meet every year in training. And with probably about 260 sworn deputies and another group of auxiliaries that we're responsible for making sure that they meet minimum qualification standards every year, that ammunition cost can be pretty high. So we have used, especially when we look at training ammunition, that's what we've been able to utilize some of the drug seizure forfeiture money for. Secure rifle racks, one of the things that we use at the sheriff's office as well as the city, and most of the sheriff's and police departments you see across the country now, they've moved to AR-15 platform. We already had those things in place, but what we didn't have was a good way to secure those in the vehicles to make sure that if somebody broke into a vehicle, that rifle would stay secure but still accessible to the officer if they needed it. So we have equipped our patrol vehicles with secure rifle racks, canine safety equipment for our canines that work out there in the field with our officers, and storm team equipment. That is our detention officer. It's Sheriff's Tactical Order Restoration Management Team. Usually I have to check my notes. I didn't have to today. To be able to tell you what that acronym stands for. But they are actually the people who are responsible if we have a bad situation take place in detention to go up and restore order in the detention center. Next slide. Some of our grants that we've managed that's helped lessen some of the cost to the taxpayer, Buncombe County taxpayers, are the federal grants that we've been able to put to work. We have a Virtra simulator, which is a firearm simulator that allows us to save an ammunition cost. It allows us to engage in all kinds of use of force training in a control setting, which has helped us control, I think, some physical injuries that we incur from time to time out in the field and on the firearms range. We can do some of the scenario-based training in a more controlled environment and actually give the officer a better range of training with that machine. The CCBI Latent Fingerprint Analysis Machine, we have actually, this involves a judge's plan and an overall strategy to print and develop a local database of offenders. We went back several years ago and got the resident Superior Court judge to sign off on a fingerprint plan for us to where we fingerprint and photograph misdemeanor offenses as well. And what that has allowed us to do, fingerprints up until we got the system were not very useful to us. The SBI had a backlog of processing, and they really didn't come about in a usable time frame. Now with this local system, and we've actually made one major case here in Buncombe County of a habitual offender who broke into a house in Candler, and if we hadn't been able to have got that fingerprint, identified it through the local system, we probably would not have held him responsible for what he did. So that's been a very good thing. The Byrne JAG officer safety grants for such things as bulletproof vest, gang deterrence. I just came from a focused deterrence meeting where we've been focusing on the gang problem, which is by and large, according to the data, a city problem, but we also have a piece of that in supporting the city with what they do there. And just new technologies, we have a couple of grants that allow us to do things that involve new technologies that make us do our jobs better. Probably the best thing that we have done since we've been in office is we do a return on investment report for the citizens of Buncombe County and for the commissioners at the end of every year. Our year-end report for 2010 is now online now. As you look at the calendar year of 2010, we actually saw our calls for service hit a leveling off point. 57,000 calls for service and some change, and that's what we had last year. Up until this past year, they had been going up pretty dramatically every year. So we're glad to see that. Average response times, we've managed to keep them under 10 minutes in priority and priority 1 calls, and they're right now at 9.15 for emergency response. Criminal investigations, I'm extremely proud of them. The state average for successful clearance of cases is about 24-25%. Our CID division is at 58%, and we've really put a lot of focus on that. And I think that adds into something that I'm getting ready to report on in just a second. Our Buncombe County Anti-Crime Task Force, which we partner with the Asheville Police Department as well as Black Mountain, has seized over $9 million worth of controlled substances this year and several $1 million in cash, which has come back to us through the seizure forfeiture program that I reported on earlier. Calls for service versus response times, we see that leveling out and the response time staying in good working order for us, or at least the benchmark that we set for them. Probably the thing that I'm the happiest to present to you tonight is we just recently received our letter from the State Bureau of Investigation, our preliminary letter on our UCR crime reports, or major crime statistics from this past year. And what we have seen and it goes into 6 different categories: murder, sexual assault, robbery, aggravated assault, larceny, and motor vehicle theft. What we have seen in the past year is that crime rate has dropped 12.5% in Buncombe County. It's down 12% for violent crime and 12.6% for property crime. If you look overall over the past 4 years, and we just really sat down and looked at this over the past couple of days, it's pretty phenomenal, really. And we can't take credit for all this. You know, there's a lot of things about crime rate that we cannot control. But I do think the fact that we are identifying more of our serious criminal offenders, we're being more successful at prosecuting them and taking them off the street for longer periods of time. You folks have given us the ability to put more cruisers out there and more officers out there, and I hear that all the time from the public. We see your officers much more. I think that presence as well as effective enforcement has helped with these numbers. But what we saw in 2007 was a 7% decrease, a 3% decrease in 2008, an 11% decrease in 2009, and a 12.5% decrease for this past year, which adds up to just a little over a 30% decrease in crime in Buncombe County over the past 4 years, and that's something I'm ecstatic about. Just to touch in summing up briefly on the numbers, and I'm more of a big picture guy than a small detail guy, so I look at those things in big pictures. What we did from last year's budget is we decreased operating lines about $520,000. What we're seeing is an increase in non-controllable things, which I think Ms. Green will be reporting on insurance and how we're handling claims and things that are going to help the county as a whole operate just a little bit better, and some things that no one can control. It's just the inflation and cost of doing business, as Major Bissinger said. We're seeing an increase there. The only thing that we're actually coming to you this year and asking that was not budgeted last year was the $197,000 for the part-time positions. Most of them were there when this administration took office. We've been able to cover those in the past with a lapsed salary. We really, in projecting and keeping the numbers tight, we really see a problem covering that this next year because we have little to no turnover, which is in most things, it's got an upside and a downside. As far as training and experience, it's a great thing for us. As far as being able to cover these part-time positions, it's a bad thing. We're going to have a tough time doing that within the budget without budgeting for it. Commissioners, if you have any questions, we're here, any calls, and I really appreciate your time. I understand it is a tough year to have to decide on budgets, and we appreciate that fact, and we thank you for letting us come present to you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Sheriff? The Sheriff, Majors, thank you very much. Thank you for your good work.
That's phenomenal, that reduction in crime rate. I mean, that's just amazing.
Good stuff. Next up, we have Dr. Green with the county budget
That
message.
used to be the headline tomorrow. You know?
All right. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you first for letting me present the 2012 budget. This budget will cover the period that will start July 1st of 11 and go through June 30th of 12. It amazes me sometimes that this is my 18th budget. And I'd have to say every year comes with a different set of challenges, and this is no different. This budget Our actions and our recommendations to you are all driven by the sustained challenge of this economy. We think it's leveling off, but it certainly hasn't turned and headed back up. I do think we're bringing you some good solutions and a solid budget, and we're certainly going to be here to answer your questions as you review this budget over the coming weeks. Tonight there are 4 parts to the budget, and it'll include 2 videos. As we were thinking about the budget, so often our citizens use a limited number of our services. They'll come to a few facilities and think that that's all there is to county government. But really, we're a very broad-based organization. So tonight we're going to start by sharing a video that identifies many of our service locations, the types of programs and the services that we provide at those locations. But to help you walk through the presentation, at the beginning of each facility, there's a map of Buncombe County with a big green star that says basically this is where this facility is located. And it will move into, in some cases, to an aerial view of the facility because we want you to see what it's close to and get some sense of the size of the facility. And our facilities will be outlined in blue or turquoise, depending on how you see color, on the aerials. And then we'll move to pictures of the facility, and you can see that some of the services are fairly self-explanatory. If it's a library, you know that's the kind of services, or a pool. But at many of our facilities, we offer a wide variety of services, and so we've listed those on the video that you'll see. So if you're ready, and more importantly, if Max is ready, we'll take that 10-minute tour of the facilities. hope you enjoyed the tour. If I can go ahead and get Max to put up the PowerPoint. We provide services in 1.5 million square feet of space, and a lot of investment in real estate that's well cared for, and I hope you're proud of the services that we do provide at those locations. If we can start through the PowerPoint. You know, as you can see, we provide services over all of our 660 square miles, from pretty much one end of the county to the other. We serve 235,000 citizens. Half of them live in one of our 6 municipalities, but only about 10% of our land is in those municipalities, so there's a lot of unincorporated area in the county. I want to give you, we're currently making a lot of changes at our facilities, and as we streamline our services and become more accessible to our citizens, let's talk for a minute about those facility changes that are taking place. First, you see here the public safety training facility. We have moved a lot of earth at the old landfill for this training facility. And last week they started pouring some concrete for the driving track, or as in some cases they affectionately call it the landing strip, because there's several components to the driving track. When it's completed, the facility will include a driving track, burn buildings, and maintenance, admin, and classroom space. We expect it to be completed and operational by July of 12. And this is a $15 million training facility for fire, emergency management, and law enforcement, all of our public safety. Once it's completed, AB Tech is going to operate this facility, and throughout this budget, you'll hear a really consistent message about partnering with our community agencies. Another view of these. And this partnership with AB Tech is really a great example of using a combination of the appropriate expertise to build and then to operate this facility. And it's a great way for both of us to accomplish our missions. The facility, without question, will reduce travel time and wear and tear on equipment as people drive to do their training, and overall it will be easier and a lot less expensive for our public safety agencies to train when they can do it right here at home. In July, Sheriff Duncan and Major Bissinger are scheduled to present a proposal for an outdoor firing range that we'll be adding to this facility. They'll be presenting that to the Woodfin Planning Board. The range is expected to cost $2 million, and the sheriff is proposing that we pay for it with forfeiture funds, and that will make this a very comprehensive and complete training facility. The next facility we have started renovations on the Human Service Center on Cox Avenue, and we expect those renovations to take about a year. We've only been we started about a month ago. When it's completed, Cox will become home to public health and economic services, and basically it's the only stop a citizen will have to make to get most of our human services. We do continue to reach out to citizens and give them different ways to apply for our programs through economic services, but having these services together really does reduce the number of places a citizen has to go to get get human services in the county. This is an $8 million renovation expected to take about a year to complete. And once it is completed, we'll be moving several public health services that are currently in leased space, and you saw those in the tour. They'll be moving back into county-owned facilities, and most of them I think they'll be moving all here. The next building that has been a work in progress is 35 Woodfin Street, or the old health center. We're trying not to call it the health center anymore. We are just completing the first and second floor renovations of this building. We've now moved all non-court related services out of the courthouse, with tax and register of deeds being the last two to move. Well, elections, tax, register of deeds, and social work services have moved into their new space here at 35 Woodfin on the first and second floor. If you're a citizen coming to get those services, it's really good parking, and it's a lot easier access than where they were in their previous locations. After we complete the renovations on the human service facility that you saw on the last slide at Cox, we'll be returning to 35 Woodfin, and we'll finish the renovations in that basement. And at that point in time, child support enforcement and adult services will be moving in to that facility, and we'll complete it. Once completed, it's a $5 million investment. The next facility that's undergoing some change is 200 College Street. It is definitely a building in transition. This past year, Finance, Human Resources, and Human Service Administration have moved into the fourth floor. When we bought the building, that floor was not occupied, but it was finished. So they've all moved in now. Somewhat unexpectedly, Jersey Mike's left us last fall, and TD Bank purchased Carolina First. So a few things you're going to see happen in this building. The signs are going to change very soon. They've gone through their permitting process, and in the next few weeks you'll see the signs change to TD Bank. With all the changes we're making, especially at 35 Woodfin and on Cox Avenue, we've lost a lot of training space. So we are going to renovate Jersey Mike's and make that a training center for the county. And then the third floor, which is not built out, will be built out, and it will include a commissioner's chamber. Now, here's the most obvious. This renovation includes the big crane that went up about a month ago, and we've started work on the life safety addition. The tower that will go on the back of the building will house a second means of egress, restrooms, and elevators. On the third floor, we're adding 2 courtrooms and office space, and the clerk and the DA are doing a lot of internal renovations to make it easier for the public, to serve the public. Those renovations are primarily on the 1st and the 6th floor. We do expect to see the external part of the tower up by February, but the internal work in the building will go on for a couple of years. Most of you will remember, or probably all of you remember, that the top 5 floors of that building were our jail once upon a time. So right now, the steel is being removed from those floors. I did get to go up and take a look at it early last week, I guess, and it's an amazing work in progress. They're having to cut the steel and take it out through the roof, so it's quite an interesting work in progress, and it's all being recycled. We are working with the courts to make sure that the daily activity continues, that we're not interrupting their ability to hold court and provide services. So if anyone should mention to you that the lights are on in the courthouse at night, indeed they are, because this is a night project that we're doing. So you can tell the progress we make on the 3rd floor, 1st floor, 6th floor as those lights begin not to be on at night. The lights will be on the top floors for a fairly long time. There's a lot of steel to cut out up there. So if somebody says to you the lights are on, yeah, they are, and they will be for a while, because this is a nighttime project, so we don't interfere with the courts being able to operate. This is our biggest structure that's left. This is our new courts building, and this will face College Street, and it will house 7 new courtrooms, and is expected to take about 2 years to complete. We do expect to start construction in early 2012. And when the new court building is built and the court renovations are complete, we'll be moving all the court-related services that we have out there in leased space back into the buildings and reduce our cost for leased space. We also think that when this is complete, we'll have at least 25 years of court growth needs met, if not more. And then the last building is kind of a transition, isn't it? In order to accommodate the move out of the courthouse, we have had to move our general services department to, if we're going to move into this Amico building. It's McCormick Place just off Charlotte Street, basically in front of the ball field. Those renovations are underway, and somebody told me it's like a builder never gets their home built, because this is general services, and they're doing this as they get time to do it, but they've got a lot of the work done. All of this work will be done within the next 3 years. I mean, we'll be done 3 years from now. But the real sign that we'll be complete is when the big crane comes down. That means we're done. Now, you have to ask, well, what does that mean for our debt service? Right now, we have outstanding debt of $245.9 million. But it's been a really good time to make capital investments. Construction costs have been far more reasonable than they were as little as 5 years ago. Interest rates have been low, and in addition to organizing our services in a way that's a lot more convenient for our citizens, we've kept boots on the ground. We've kept people working during a period of time when it's been a really tough economy. When you look at our debt breakdown, we still have some debt to issue, and you'll hear about that in the course of 2012. We have some debt to issue for the balance of the training facility, for the court building, to finish the upper floors on the courthouse, and for real estate for our radio towers. Basically, we have about $49 million more debt to issue. If you look at our current breakdown of debt, out of the $245 million, $124.5 million that is for education. You know, we're required to provide the facilities for education. Whoops, that went too fast. We're required to provide the facilities for education, although Buncombe is the only county in the state that has Article 49 set aside in a school capital commission fund to fund that debt. was a period in time I thought, wow, that just seems like I wasn't sure I thought that was fair, to be real honest with you, 15 years ago. I would have to tell you today, though, when I talk to my counterparts in other counties, it has really helped us meet our needs and make for a really good relationship with our school system, and I think our school facilities are in very good shape. Public safety right now is $64.1 million of our $245 million worth of debt. The $49 million all is public safety. So when we have everything completed, our outstanding debt, 80.6% of it will be for the combination of education and public safety. Let's talk just a minute about what that does to our budget. The debt service that we have included in the budget, if you can see that it does go up because we have to add to the debt the $2.5 million for the courthouse. But we are doing what's technically called capitalizing the interest on that debt. So we'll be moving money from a capital fund to pay that. Doesn't increase the net county cost, but it does increase the debt. So budget goes up, but there's a funding stream for it until the mortgage, for lack of a better way to put it, the mortgage on the first tower of the jail will be paid off in 2014. The courthouse will be finished in 2014. We will switch one mortgage for the other. And you can see that we start to pick up capacity as we move into the outer years. Our debt service starts going down. So it does give you the ability. We do have projected into that the things that are on our capital plan.
Well, I'm sorry, this is where my eyes are not really, could you just tell me what the colors are on that real quick?
Yeah, I have to look at it close myself. The blue is just principal. The green is the interest as you go up. The yellow is debt service for things that are in progress. And then the little red block is leases, because right now we're in a lot of lease space that will go away as soon as we have all this capital completed. So you see a jump to pay for the court building. But like I said, the net county cost does not go up, just the increase in the debt. And then that will level off when in 14 when the first tower of the jail pays off. We will, in future meetings, bring back an update with more detail on this public safety training facility. Great progress down there. I think you've got the members of our public safety community are really very pleased to be able to have this facility so close to home. We hope to do some contracting, and we'll be doing that through AB Tech to provide services to people in other counties. And then we'll bring a more detailed picture back on the courthouse, both the renovations and the new facility. And we're happy to answer any questions. I'll try, and other people will help me answer questions on the construction and progress in our facilities if you'd like to ask those now. Or if you want to wait, you can ask them at the end, either way.
Any questions? Proceed.
As we look at county governments across North Carolina, shifting to our services, we provide a really diverse set of services that focus on the health and safety of our communities. As we prepared for the budget, it was like, how do you communicate that in a fairly concise way and let you know what we really do, and more importantly, let the people who watch us know just how diverse our services are. So I want to thank Lisa Eby for coming up with the idea for the video that you're going to see here in just a minute, because what better way to describe what we do, how we invest, and the impact we want to have on the community than to have our employees who provide that service tell you what they're doing. So as you look at the video, you're going to see information about how we're growing Buncombe County: kinder, smarter, greener, healthier, and safer. And if you'll notice in the slides or in the video, you'll see some workload statistics that really give you a good idea or a good understanding of what it's like in the day of a life of Buncombe County government. There's a tremendous volume of work that takes place across our departments. Max did a great job of filming this and putting it together. So join me as we watch the video and you hear our employees describe what they do on a daily basis. There is no question that across the country, local government is the government that's closest to the people. The services we provide here in Buncombe County are very diverse.
Every day, our county employees tackle a wide variety of issues that offer both opportunities and challenges. In the next few minutes, you'll hear from a few of our employees who provide the core services of county government. We've divided our core services into 5 essential value blocks: kinder, greener, healthier, safer, and smarter. What we know is that each of these core values is a building block for the other. Working together with our focus on these core values allows us to maintain the wonderful resource of our land and our people, and it enables us to grow together into a future and meet the needs as efficiently and effectively as possible.
It's all for the citizens of Buncombe County.
Understand where they're coming from. It could happen to me.
Just being kind makes a difference.
There's several people that come in and they're broken. They come in and they've been down for a while. You know, they're struggling, their money's ran out. They've worked all their lives, they had savings, all the savings are gone now and they don't know which way to turn.
Frequently, people that come apply for benefits have never been here before, and we are able to make that process more friendly and comfortable for them so they don't hesitate to ask for assistance in the future.
It makes me feel really good to be able to help someone, and especially when they are afraid to ask for help and then realize it's okay.
When I began my career with the Food Nutrition Services program, when I was able to work one-on-one with clients, I was able to see that I was able to help single moms with children that were doing everything right and struggling for just that few amount of dollars in order to feed their child. I was able to help the senior citizens that were on a fixed income, and they just could not afford just that extra $4 for a gallon of milk, because they had to buy their prescriptions, and it truly came down to that place of, do I buy my medicine to live or do I buy food to live?
In the Buncombe County Tax Office, we realize the economy's tough and citizens are having problems making payments. We offer a lot of different ways to assist people in that, anywhere from payment plans to payroll deductions and different creative plans to help them with their budgets. We also offer ways to reduce their tax bills. We have an elderly exemption program or a totally and permanently disabled program that people can reduce their taxes as much as 50%. And then also we have one for disabled veterans.
One of the first things I tell our one-stop workers is congratulations, you've just been granted the most fun job in Buncombe County. Because the truth is, everybody is so grateful that we are out there in the community serving them at their convenience. We're right down the road. They can vote on their way to work. The most important thing is that we try to make sure that we're accessible to all parts of the county. And sometimes that's difficult to do, but we keep trying.
Well, I work with teenagers and I love my job because it reminds me of that part of my life where I was misunderstood and trying to find my way, and I had a young girl who wanted to go to college but just wasn't sure about it, and so we were able to arrange where we stayed on campus in the dorm rooms. She was able to go to classes and meet other college students, and now today she is in community college and she's hoping to transfer to a four-year university. And it's things like that that encourage you to think out of the box and go that extra mile for your kids, because you know one day they're going to be contributing members to society.
Receive information anywhere.
Utilizing new systems to improve
Technology
service.
is the key to our
Technology
future.
has changed.
It's faster, more efficient, and smarter.
There's been a 70% increase in clients. Because our clients have changed so much and the volume has changed, and technology has changed, we've had to change how we do business. And whether that means now we take telephone apps, that means that people can call a call center, people are now using the internet and they can submit a web-based app. We're trying to make it efficient. It's important that their services are met in such a timely manner because our program is food. That is a bare necessity to every citizen. And if they are in our office, that means that they're having trouble eating. And so we have to make our process as quick as possible.
In 2007, Buncombe County was experiencing on average an 8% increase in the daily population in the Buncombe County Detention Facility. In that year, we implemented a number of jail diversion programs, including pre-booking programs like Crisis Intervention Team and Enhanced Pretrial Services, which is a post-booking program, and the Just Jail Diversion Program, which releases mentally ill persons from the jail and connects them with services. jail diversion is a smart investment to keep costs down and also to invest in the safety of our community.
So the Buncombe County Register of Deeds office internally streamlined the process between the GIS department, the tax department, and the Register of Deeds office. What we've wanted to try to achieve, and what we are achieving, is now you can go into those programs and find the information you're looking for on all three of the sites. And that's so much what our goal is to streamline the process to make it easier for the people of Buncombe County to find the information they're looking for.
While we've really prepared strategically for the change and being able to anticipate the increase in need for public assistance, what I think has caught all of us by surprise is the changing face of the community that's receiving public assistance. We're seeing more than ever before people that are working 1, 2, and 3 jobs that are simply not able to make ends meet but yet still qualify for our assistance. Again, that's another advantage of having the Human Services Support Team to work with departments to anticipate those trends and be ready to staff those needs when they come about.
The animal shelter is more than just a place to house animals. We do a lot of great service for the community. As far as if somebody is missing their animal, they can come in and look for their lost pet. We also provide to citizens who are having some financial difficulty, we provide food for their animals as well. It's an amazing benefit to have the AB Tech Veterinary Technician program in the Buncombe County Animal Shelter, because a lot of the animals that come into the shelter are in need of basic medical care that the AB Tech students and instructors help us out with.
In the last year alone, the EDC partnered with Buncombe County employers to announce over $230 million in new capital investments within the community that really adds great strength to the tax base. We understand fully that it's not just about bringing new employers to the county, but taking care of our own as a first priority. In the last calendar year, we visited over 140 existing employers, and these are folks from software firms to startup R&D operations to manufacturers of all sizes. Startup manufacturers with new green products to multinational manufacturers that are located here in the county with literally hundreds of Buncombe County employees on their payroll. Jobs are really the best measure of the health of our families and our community, and jobs are our #1 priority in working with employers in the community. We feel pretty strongly that Buncombe County is uniquely positioned for even greater gains in the year ahead and to continue to lead Western North Carolina as the region pulls out of recession.
Getting the information out to our citizens is so important to us. We try so many different ways to get it out. We're such a diverse community, but we want to reach everybody. We're out there on Twitter and Facebook. We try to get the printed word out in a lot of our publications, but so many people are moving away from that. We've redone our website to reach people. But we want to reach out, but we want them to feel like they can reach us too, to be friendly enough, to be open, to know that if you call us, and please call us, that we will give you an answer, that we will get back to you. Two-way communication is so important because we are public servants. We don't want the citizens to think that their government is just here to tell them what to do or to take their money. We're here to serve them, that they pay for what they get, and we want to make sure that they get that service and to know how to get it when they need it, because that's really the secret. We're here when you need us.
Catching an outbreak before
Making
sure the food you eat.
So many outlets for an active lifestyle. A healthy future starts with a healthy now.
Well, the most important thing I feel is that we do have to strive to become healthier. Buncombe County Parks, Greenways, and Recreation Services has many different facets. We have parks that outline the community. We have river parks that you can canoe and fish in. Lake Julian has canoeing, paddle boats, picnic shelters. The Sports Center has walking trails, soccer fields, a pavilion. We also have an opportunity to share expertise with the Special Olympics in Buncombe County, where there's about 400 athletes who have different sports that we have activities in, and we have created a little bit healthier living for them. Buncombe County Parks, Greenways, and Recreation has programming throughout the year, workshops, day trips, fishing tournaments, pools to swim in, lap swimming, water aerobics, so there's always something to do here.
Over the past couple of years, Buncombe County has been refocusing its efforts to assure that we are implementing core public health services and also engaging our community in helping us improve the health of all citizens. We're doing that through smart partnerships, looking for groups and individuals, nonprofits, businesses, our medical community to work with us in a way that allows us to focus on those areas that are causing the biggest issues in our community regarding health and to improve how we are moving our community forward. Our role as a health department is to assure that there is access to service in our community, not necessarily to provide it if we have others available to do that. And that's where we are focusing these days, is on that assurance role.
I think programs like the Nurse-Family Partnership improve the health of Buncombe County because we really work from the very beginning of life, which is prenatal life. And as we work with the mom, we start to make changes in her life so that she can be ready for her child to come into this world. And once the child is in the world, she is ready for that relationship, to get that child ready for early preschool. Language development increases. I think a lot of really good outcomes that we can show cognitively with Nurse-Family Partnership. As a toddler goes on to elementary school, they stay in school longer. They stay out of the juvenile justice system, and so we have decreased amounts of time in jail for preteens and pre-adolescents. And so you can really start to see in a community that there are generational results to working with mothers and infants and toddlers.
Well, as a disease control nurse here at Buncombe County, we work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working with the physicians in the community and other people out in the community so that when we identify that there is a communicable disease out there, we can work quickly to stop the spread in the community so that people are not continuing to get sick. We can put control measures into place to stop the spread of this disease and also to educate the public on ways that they can prevent these diseases.
What people traditionally think of when they think of school nurses is Band-Aids and boo-boos. Who do you go to during the day when your stomach hurts or you have a headache? And while we do fill that role from time to time, I mean, I certainly do see acutely ill students occasionally, but the healthcare needs of our students have gotten so much more acute. Statistics have proven that healthy children just learn better. Another part of my job that is extremely rewarding is helping kids to be able to access health care.
County government invested in our future.
It's about protecting the beauty of our area.
What steps
From
can
local
you take?
food to our mountain culture.
Small steps make a big difference.
Well, we're standing in Bookends, which is the Friends of the Library bookstore at Pack Library, and this is a major recycling program. Pack Library and almost all the branches have some sort of ongoing book sale. If you've got your bookshelves at home and they're overflowing, pack up what you don't think you're going to read again and bring it down to the library. But that money comes back to support library programs, and the books find new homes. And one of the primary objectives in renovating this building was to make it more efficient. And we did things like make better entrances so we're not losing as much heat to the outside. We brought the lighting down from the high ceilings down closer to the book stacks so we can run about half as much light. And all the heating and air conditioning equipment is brand new. So we've got a pretty efficient building now that's a lot more comfortable.
The solid waste department manages all the county's throwaways and recyclables. Now, that might sound easy, but one of our goals is to save space in the landfill. That way we can stay open for the community as long as possible. And in order to do that, a lot has to happen. For example, we operate the landfill as a bioreactor, which means we're accelerating landfill settlement quicker so that we can go back and recover space. We also use an alternative daily cover. So at the end of every operating day, instead of using dirt to cover the garbage, we actually use an alternative daily cover, which is a posi shell. It's a spray-on mineral mortar that really conserves natural resources and airspace. And it drastically increases the life of the landfill. We do a lot of recycling. Last year alone, we recycled nearly 80 million pounds of material. We also operate a construction and demolition landfill, which is a separate disposal area, and that has helped us save nearly 4 years already.
The Buncombe Soil and Water District works with the citizens of Buncombe County and its core partners to conserve the soil, water, and related natural resources of Buncombe County. And we do that primarily in 3 ways: technical assistance, environmental education, and lastly we also work with cost sharing with individuals. We're able to effect a change, and particularly on agricultural lands, we are able to calculate the reduction in pollutants, the reduction in pollutant sources on the individual pieces of property that we work on. I guess to sum it up, I guess it would be sort of like one of our core partners, Natural Resource Conservation Service. Motto is helping people help the land. That's what we do. We help citizens. We guide them through the process. If we can't help them, we send them to the people that can help them. But if we can, we draw up the plans and the designs to put the conservation on the ground. But we help the citizens of Buncombe County help the land.
Keeping our community safe is a 24/7 job.
Making sure our
All
facilities
children
are
have the
safe.
right to live in a safe home.
It's about feeling safe in your community.
We conduct sanitation inspections for restaurants and food stands. During festivals, we issue permits to the food vendors there. We actually inspect the food stands to make sure that the food is safe for the public to eat. We inspect school cafeterias. We inspect child daycares to make sure that sanitation conditions are what they should be, that it's safe for the children to be there. We inspect swimming pools to make sure that the water quality is safe for bathers, that the proper safety equipment is in place.
I get that question a lot, why do I work for Child Protective Services? Most people are like, how can you do that? How can you work with so many families and be in those situations? But I really like meeting different families and seeing what situations they're in and giving them the resources to become better. I think it's very important to make families self-sufficient. A lot of families that I meet aren't aware of the resources that are available, and my goal is to give them resources to get them back on their feet and to help them grow and become able to care for their families on their own. And then my ultimate goal is for the children to grow up and be successful.
So when we receive a report of child abuse or neglect, the technology provided to us as social workers allows me to get there much quicker. If I had to come back to the office, it could take up to an hour to print a copy and get back on the scene. And an hour is a great deal of time when it comes to child safety. We don't know what we're going to find. We don't know if there's an injury or something that needs to be tended to by medical or law enforcement. And by having the technology in our hands, we're able to access that information remotely and begin our jobs immediately.
I think the greatest asset a social worker can have in adult services is the ability to listen to that core feeling that the adult has about how they want to spend their days and where they want to spend their days. And it's really wonderful if we can honor those wishes and at the same time maintain safety. As our county's population ages, we've seen about an increase of 151% in reports of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. So our work has certainly increased. The most important thing to remember about adults is that they have the right to self-determination, while our responsibility is to try and ensure that they are safe and have opportunities to make good choices about how to maintain that safety.
Here at the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office, I'm glad to report that our major benchmarks that we look at in the way of performance are all very good for the past year. To give an overall picture, Buncombe County, the crime rate overall has decreased for the past 3 years. In 2008, we saw a 3% decrease in crime in Buncombe County. In 2009, we saw an 11% decrease in crime in Buncombe County. And this past year, 2010, we're just receiving our preliminary reports from the State Bureau of Investigation, and of the 8 major crimes that they measure by reported crime every year, it looks like we're in for a 12.5% decrease in crime in Buncombe County for this past year. So those are all numbers that are moving in the right direction. Because of the dedicated men and women of the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office, your county's becoming a safer place to live, and I'm very thankful for them and thankful to them for the hard work that they do for you every day.
The planning department, we do a lot of land development activities. We review subdivisions, we work with zoning. I'm the floodplain administrator for the county. We have erosion control under the planning department. One of the other things that we do is work with affordable housing programs. And these have always been targeted for families below 80% of median income, the most needy in our area. Recently, in 2008, the county adopted the workforce housing policy, and workforce housing targets families above the 80% of median income. So the jobs that these people have, it renders it difficult for them to find adequate housing in Buncombe County and the Asheville market. So this workforce housing policy is designed for incentivize developers to develop housing for families making between 80 and 140% of median income.
EMS crews work 24-hour shifts, start out at 7:30 in the morning with checking the equipment and making sure they're ready to roll, and then they are dispatched on calls from there on. You certainly don't know what the next call will bring. Maybe delivering a child or responding to a cardiac arrest. You just never know, so you have to be ready for all of them. It actually starts when you dial 911. The dispatchers will give you medical advice and stuff that you need to be doing and getting together while the ambulance and fire department is actually being dispatched and on the way to the house. It's always a good thing when you meet citizens out or they come by the fire station to thank you. Recently we had someone stop by our fire station to thank us that we'd worked him in a cardiac arrest, and very grateful, of course, of the care provided, and they had followed up with some good medical treatment, and hopefully will live a long and prosperous life.
In good times and in bad, it's important to improve ourselves as well as the county that we all love. The goal of Buncombe County employees is to help our citizens as effectively and efficiently as possible with a great sense of kindness and responsibility. Growing Buncombe County greener, healthier, kinder, safer, and smarter can be done, but only with all of us working together. Join us as we grow a better Buncombe County.
Good job.
Just a sampling of all the services that we provide and the variety of people that we have providing. Obviously, they're very dedicated to what they do. If I can get Max to go back to the PowerPoint, we'll move on with the budget. Okay, let's see. All right. I do want to say that the services that you heard about and many others are provided in an ever and rapidly changing environment, and our service demands are inversely related to the economy. When times are good, there's less demand for our services. When times are not so great, there's a real growth in our service demands, and it grows both rapidly and exponentially. Let's talk a little bit about what you find in the package and on the agenda. On the agenda, we've included the letter transmitting the recommended budget, the departmental breakdowns of revenues and expenditures for 2012 with 2011 comparisons, the capital plan, and we've also included the strategic plans. Strategic plan. This information, or these documents out there, provide a lot of information that you might have, where you might have questions about the budget. Let's talk about the components of the budget. This budget was developed using the existing 52.5-cent tax rate. This is our fifth year, our fifth budget at this tax rate. The general fund budget of $257,150,000 includes public safety, human service, education, libraries, recreation, tax, register deeds, and many support services and other services. Something I'll address as we go through the budget is that the general fund budget is an increase of $4.3 million over last year. I will explain those changes as we go forward. The non-general fund portion of the budget at $45.8 million includes fire, occupancy tax, solid waste, inmate welfare, air quality, and forfeiture funds. And the non-general fund portion of the budget is down $3.5 million. That gives us a total 2012 recommended budget of $302,961,437. The budget invests in core service and technology, as you heard from our employees how important that is to them, space, which we spoke about earlier, and community partnerships. Our decision to focus on core services and to push non-core services to community partners has strengthened us in several ways. First, it's allowed us to focus on our business processes and invest our resources, especially IT, in efficiencies. We're also able to shift staff as service demands change, allowing us to absorb large caseload increases. Second, by moving services to community partners, it's enabled us to capitalize on non-county funding. The prime example that we heard about at our last meeting is primary care. It's a really good example of using the county's federally qualified health center to tap higher reimbursements for Medicare and Medicaid. And then bringing those additional dollars into the community helps us, has supported us caring for the uninsured without increasing local investment in that. And finally, by creating smart partnerships, we're pushing needed resources out to our community partners and providing a more sustainable safety net for our community. We're also promoting shared community ownership for our success. Balancing long and short-term needs is a challenge at the county, state, and national level. Our commitment to the community is to lead with the future in mind and to do our level best to transform our business processes in ways that mirror our changing world and our changing lifestyles of the people that we serve. You can pick up documents from any state and across the nation, and they're going to say that they need to focus on core. They need to consolidate and merge and regionalize and deal with the loss of state funding and prepare for health care reform and address the shifting demand. What you've told us for 10 years is that's the way Buncombe County is going to approach it, and that's how we have approached it. For the past decade, we've focused on just these issues that are just now being addressed at a broader perspective. And we will continue to address these issues in a real comprehensive and strategic way. And we look forward to the state and the federal government doing that because I think it lessens anxieties and gives us a more solid foundation when we're all focusing on how do we better manage using some of these techniques. If you look at our expenditures, you'll see that our primary expenditures continue to be our core services of education at $75.5 million, human services at $78.8 million, and public safety at $59.8 million. These three combined core services of county government consume $214 million of the $257 million budget. Any increases in cost shifts, we've tried to focus on in this budget that we're bringing, and we really have focused on core service areas. This is a wide variety of who we serve and how we serve them. We so focus on the budget that we ask you to adopt that we sometimes forget that we serve a wide variety of people and have a major financial impact on this entire county. In addition to the budget that we adopt, we leverage significant funds into this community. In food assistance, 48 million federal dollars come into the community with a total return of $83 million on that. Medicaid serves 39,000 citizens, 18% of our population. 262 million state and federal dollars come into the community with a total return of $453 million for the community. Child care subsidies of $11 million are brought into the community with a total impact of $19 million. So overall, while we ask you to adopt a $300 million budget, the impact of the services that you provide have an additional $555 million impact on our citizens and our businesses. Just another way to look at where our money goes, it gives just a different perspective. But while you're looking at this, I want to say one more thing about safety net for our community. In March of 2010, unemployment in Buncombe County was 9.3%. March of 11, it's 7.7%. During the 12-month period that started April 1st of 10 and ended March 31st of 11, our citizens received $97.4 million in unemployment. And while that's not the preferred way to support our families, it does provide a serious safety net for those times when we are in trouble. I tried to think of a better way to do this, and I really can't, so we're just going to kind of walk through some information. As we prepared the budget, departments were directed to prepare budget reductions of 3%, 5%, 7%, and 10%, with the understanding that we would implement all reasonable changes. With a focus on core services, departments were instructed to also look for options to provide non-core services or provide core services that we weren't required to actually provide, but to ensure that we're in the community. The slides that you're seeing now reflect the cuts that the departments helped us, that they made, and it's the savings that we're able to use to accommodate the growth that we've had in other areas that we have to serve. Make sure I get through these. Now, in total, the departments took $8 million in cuts from their budgets. The percentage reductions ranged from 2% to 15%, and I think everybody gave it a wonderful effort to see what we could do and what we could do different. Now, while it would be great if we could just take this and save it, and I wish I could tell you that we can, we have new and shifting responsibilities that we have to cover. And I wanted to touch on just a few of those. While we haven't included it in the budget, the thing that the sheriff mentioned in Major Madiabas is the first issue related to having to keep misdemeanors from the 91st to the 180th day. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners is projecting that will cost us $700,000, an increase in the budget, but they are going to give us a revenue stream for that. We've not incorporated into the budget, but that is something we will face before ordinance time. Other things that have resulted in change, and I'm not going to hit on all of these, but pretty much we had a policy change on how we deal with unemployment and workers' comp claims. We have always asked departments to absorb that. But when you go in and say, I need you to cut your budget by 10%, we have to be a little more realistic about what we can ask them to absorb. So we've changed our policy to actually start charging a premium. Now that does increase the budget overall by $1 million, but we can't ask them to cut $8 million and say absorb $1 million more. So that has been an adjustment in our budget. And as I mentioned during the capital update, we have included the $2.5 million debt service for the courthouse, but we are transferring some funds from the capital fund to pay for these. We are seeing, as you saw in the video, caseload increases that are just staggering. Whether it's food assistance or Medicaid or reports of abuse, we're seeing staggering caseload increases. So one of the increases in our budget is a $2.7 million increase, primarily around economic services. These are services that the state and federal government say we will provide. They're often very specific at what staffing levels you'll provide these, and they're subject to very serious audits. And I'm really proud to say, and I compliment DSS tremendously, we have a 0% error rate on Medicaid and food assistance audits. While those are federal dollars and state dollars that we pull, if we make a mistake, we pay it back with local dollars. So it's very important that we staff this well, we're very conscious about it, and that we don't make any mistakes in the process of it. Another increase in the budget is $2,667,000 that we'll be providing to the Buncombe County schools to open the two intermediate schools, Kuntz and Eblin. Those will open this fall, and when we provide money to the county schools, we have to provide the proportionate share to the city schools, so that's another $400,000. Fuel. We heard about that a little bit earlier. We are worried about that. We drive 6.5 million miles in Buncombe County with the vehicles that we have, which is tremendous. When gas goes to $4 a gallon, it has a big impact on us. So we are asking you to include a contingency for fuel of $700,000. We've run the numbers. We think that actually the number would be higher, but we'll implement some energy-saving programs. A contingency very simply means we have to come back to you. We can't touch it, we can't spend it, but we have provided for what could be a serious upcoming expense. And once we put it in as contingency, we have to come back to you to appropriate it for any department. And another thing that's included in this budget is $150,000 for a third-party review of our compensation. There's been a number of questions asked about employee compensation, and this study will give us a very objective look at how we're compensating and where there needs to be changes. When we're talking about staffing, though, I want to raise a couple of points. When we presented the budget last year, our workforce at that point was reduced to 1,526. Today, we're bringing you a budget that includes a workforce of 1,421. If you look at our salary and benefit costs, they total $103 million of the $303 million that we're asking you to approve. That's 34%. In working with the departments and reducing our staffing, out of the 105 people, we've been able to employ, whether it's with a partner agency, we have had some retirements and we had some vacant positions, but we are down to about 6 people that we're not able to, at this point, employ. Some of them are making life choices in terms of retirement and going back to school. This budget does include contracting with Land of Sky Regional Council to provide workforce development and job link services, along with the administration of Mountain Mobility. The budget includes the plan to move forward with a private provider to manage daily operations for Mountain Mobility. These changes let us treat workforce development as the regional effort that it is. They already serve all the Land of Sky counties, and this lets us handle that in a real regional way. And this transition also, I think, sets up an opportunity to have regional transportation. I think we're a good neighbor Buncombe County is a good neighbor to all our surrounding counties, and I think they'd tell you we're a good neighbor, but they don't really want us running their services. Our best chance for true regionalization on some of our services is to go to Land of Sky or the Council of Government to make those happen. And the transitions that we're making here also look to the future to manage the cost increases that are going to be associated with health care reform in 2014. You have this term. Here is just I've included this slide so you can see a sample of our community partners. And it is through these partnerships that we've been able to expand access to service and to increase our capacity. Everybody that we work with, we try to have under contract. We did have some requests for some additional funding from agencies. We have not included that in this budget. And if we need something from a nonprofit, if we need a service, we want to buy what we need, not what they want to sell. And we've been real conscious of that. So that's what it takes to run us. Now, how do we pay for it? Well, at best, you'd have to describe our revenues as stagnant. Property tax, sales tax, and intergovernmental funding represent 86% of our revenues. There's a half percent increase in our property tax, and sales tax is based on the last 12 months of actual, so pretty much it is just flat. Just another way to look at our revenues. And as sales tax has shrunk, it's certainly changed the percentages of those revenue streams. We are asking you in this budget to appropriate $7.9 million of fund balance. That's $1 million more than we appropriated last year. And I stand here every year and say, we're going to save it. I don't know how we're going to save it. And I'm standing here again this year saying, it's going to be harder than before, but we're determined that we are going to save these funds and not use them. We don't know if gasoline costs will go up, if they'll come down, if we'll have bad weather or good weather. We don't know where we can save those funds, but we do know that traditionally there's something happens in the course of the year that gives us an ability to save those funds. And we have a good track record for doing that. Certainly this is more than we've appropriated in many, it may be the most we've ever appropriated, but I think you can see we do have a good track record for saving that. One of the things that you have to do in the course of the budget is you set the tax rates for fire and city schools. None of them have requested an increase, so those we'll be recommending same rates as last year for them. The only action that we're asking you to take tonight is to set the public hearing. We'd like to set the public hearing for June the 7th of 2011. And I think we're through with the PowerPoint, but there are a few people I want to thank before we take any questions. I really want to thank Diane Price and Autumn Moore. Their work on the budget, the detail, the day-to-day working with the departments, not only to get the budget put together, but to execute the budget in the course of the year and work with the departments on the changes they need. So if these two ladies would stand. Let's give them a hand. Thank you very much. They do a lot of work for us every day. I also want to thank Lisa Eby and Amy Harmon and Kathy Hughes and Sharon Stosich and especially Max Tainer for their work on the videos. We'd say, but don't we need this kind of section in the video? And Max would go film it and get it incorporated. So if y'all would stand, even if Kathy doesn't want to stand up there. There's nothing like embarrassing your clerk. And Max will stick his head out the door. They've done a wonderful job. And we are happy to answer any questions that you have about the budget. I know it's a lot of information. Certainly was better for them to tell you about it than me to tell you about all those services because they know the details. But any questions you have, we're happy to answer them.
Is there anything from the state level that would have a significant impact? You talked about the $700 million that would going to cost some shifting, but there was also a revenue stream, I believe, that would be available for that.
They are going to increase.
Is anything else on the horizon that would have a serious impact?
Right now, the only thing we're still watching are changes in elder exemption income and definition of income, some changes on veterans exemptions, and we still worry about any changes they make to definitions on nonprofits. So those still hang out there and we worry about them. The rest of them, you know, it's a moving target. They've moved crossover again to June the 9th. So there's a lot of activity around bills that impact Buncombe County, but I think those are the big financial impacts that are still out there.
Fuel cost. We've heard that a number of times, and I know that we do some contracting now for fuel? I think we do, right?
We work closely with some of our local providers, yes.
Is there a better way to do that?
Well, we've looked at that over the years. We've looked at some service providers who provide access to service in a lot of communities. That hasn't proven to be really beneficial for us locally. We have a good arrangement with some of the credit cards we use. We also have, Evelyn Oil is very good to us if we have a disaster too, that they actually close stations just for us and take care of the needs that we have. So they've been very, very good to work with, and we do feel a great deal of loyalty to that too. But their prices are very competitive. And when we travel with credit cards and try to, and we manage those costs. In our fleet, we watch cost per gallon of gas. We watch gas mileage on a vehicle so that we can actually better manage our fleet when we see a car getting out of control too.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
I just have a few things. So just one quick overview again. So the best guess at this moment, and we still have the Senate to go, but the best guess in this proposed budget of costs that are going to be pushed down. I mean, I know there's also additional costs that we're going to have with the new schools and some internal things, but just from the state impact on our budget, what's kind of the round number on that?
If you just look at state legislation, it's the $700,000 increase in for the misdemeanors, and up to a $600,000 loss in revenue. That's the potential, depending on how the bills move. And we have not seen a lot of activity on the bills that we're watching, on those particular bills. Caseload increase and what the state says we have to do with that caseload can change in a second. Last year is the best example I can come up with. They changed a percentage we paid by like 0.1%, and it was $547,000. So we're watching all of those things too. We're not seeing that right now, but caseload and what becomes an eligible service can change what we do pretty quickly too. We are not seeing that right now, and I'd have to check with Mandy to see if she's seeing anything.
So, like the workers' comp that we might have to pick up for teachers?
That has not made it to the House budget or to the Senate budget, and using county's fund balance, that's kind of gone away. School bus, there's a lot of those things that were in the governor's budget that did not make it into the House budget, and we're grateful. That was very expensive.
Right on. Okay, good to know. And in terms of process, so we're going to have the public. Well, before I do the process part, so in the fund balance, and you kind of showed it little graphs there, and great track record for saving, whopper of a number. It was a whopper last year from the so now we're but in terms of this year, so you've saved that to date, right? I mean,
we really think we're going to save that to date. I mean, we're certainly going to be less than 7 figures from saving it if we don't, but we really feel fairly confident we are going to save that.
So do you anticipate, with that savings, I mean, great job, with that savings, will we grow our collective fund balance this year at all, or you think we'll just stay flat?
We will grow, we'll stay flat in number, and that changes in percentage as you change the overall budget. So that, flat's probably the best way to describe it.
Okay, flat in kind of gross dollars. Okay, super. And so in terms of process, we're going to set the public hearing for June the 7th. So 2 questions, well, 1 request and 1 question. One is, one of the things that I've noticed that sometimes doesn't get kind of developed till the very end, but the public might have something to say about, are those budget amendments that kind of, so could we get those prepared for the public to view?
Any year-end budget amendments?
Yeah, all that stuff at the end. I mean, like, this one of them that's always in there are our salaries, and we know that's been a hot topic. So let's just put it out there and get it done with.
Yeah, that's the budget ordinance, and yes, we will get that.
Yeah,
prepared.
the budget. I'm sorry, the budget ordinance, not the budget amendments. My mistake. So we can get those developed for the public to be able to comment on. And then the final question is, what's your the crystal ball process question in terms of knowing when we should adopt a budget, or I mean, do you think still the second our meeting in June we'll know where we are, or?
I do. Right now, at the rate they're going, I think we'll know at the second meeting in June. I think if we don't know the second meeting in June, we'll ask you to continue that meeting in case we have a shot at adopting a budget the fourth Tuesday in June. They still say from a General Assembly standpoint that they will adopt a budget early in June, which gives us the bulk of what we need. Then we only have to watch a few pieces of legislation that are moving. So right now I'm feeling like we're going to be able to adopt a budget before fiscal year end.
So one last little, caveat question around that.
Sure.
So we think the General Assembly is going to get that done, but then this doesn't really interface with veto override,
That
So,
would
but
change the picture.
That
That would
best
change
guess
the picture.
is it with the House and the Senate kind of here's the budget, but it doesn't
Yeah.
factor in any other process.
It doesn't. If the budget's vetoed, I think we have no way to know how long it'll take to resolve that.
Hurry up and wait, yeah.
Yeah. We do have our school superintendents and ABTAC president coming on the 7th to give you an update on what's going on with them and the state budget. There's probably more activity with them right now than there is with counties or municipalities. So we'll hear from them, and we'll hear from them before we actually hold the public hearing piece of it if y'all will agree to change the order of the agenda.
I told a story. I thought that was my last question, but we didn't talk about it, and maybe we can another time, is how like the budget aligns with the strategic plan. But I really appreciated the attachment and kind of trying to match up like what have we said that these are our goals and how we're investing money. And I think in some of our areas we do really good, and some of it, it's kind of harder to connect the investments in what we'd laid out for our plan. So maybe I can have some more dialogue about that in terms of kind of amount of investment in those focus areas. And then everybody will be happy that my final question has fleeted away, but it was so important. I will email or it'll come to me, and I might ask that at the very end, Chairman. Thank you.
Wanda, I know that one of the purposes of this session today was not only to present the budget to us, but to give the folks who will be viewing this, or the print media and those kind of folks, who will sit that way, an overview of county funding. I saw a little bit of frowning in the audience on two things I would just like for you to explain.
Sure.
Even though we know, I think it's important that because this is going to be something that folks are going to watch and be interested in. When you mentioned the funding for the 2 new Buncombe County schools, you made mention of the fact that a certain amount would also go to the city schools.
That's right.
So if we could have an explanation for folks about that and maybe alleviate a question or two. Also, if you could say a word or two about the importance of the fund balance.
On school funding, we are required by general statute to provide the same amount of funding for every student, for every system that we provide. And we often refer to that as the ADM funding, average daily membership. So if we provide additional funding to county schools, we have to provide that same proportionate amount to city schools or vice versa. We have the raw cost to open the county schools at $2,667,000, which figures into a certain amount per student, and we have to pay that certain amount per student to city schools also. So that's just a general statute requirement.
Thank you.
And on the fund balance is important for a lot of reasons. It helps you handle emergencies, which is probably the big thing. It really speaks to our ability as the leadership of the county to manage the county, to financially manage the county, and to maintain a good bond rating for the county, so that we're seen as having quality debt when we issue debt for our construction projects. So it's very important to our overall financial strength, how we're viewed as an organization, and our ability to handle any emergencies that come up.
Thank you.
I remembered my last little question. I think y'all have done a bang-up job of trying to, with reducing positions, but finding those folks jobs, and lots of applause around that. And I also heard it mentioned several times that one of the focuses has been on delivering services efficiently and professionally to our customers and citizens in the midst of all this. And that said, I would just like to know, and there might not be, but if there's any types of reduction of services, which would be legitimate in this world of, $8 million cuts, but if they are, if it's hours of service or something else that our citizens might need to know about, I think that would be pretty helpful information to share down the road too.
And we have tried very hard to not reduce service whenever we can, but to deliver it in a different method. One of the decisions that was made, frankly, is we got a recommendation on when the 10% cap came in from EMS, it meant taking an ambulance off the road. Well, that just didn't seem like something that we should come and recommend to you. When we have as many miles to cover and as few facilities. So there are some things like decisions like that we made that did not cut service, but kept the department from being able to cut as much as we asked initially. You were going to ask a question.
Yeah. Oh, our fund balance we used last year, about $6 million. What was it?
We budgeted six.
How much of that did we save?
We have saved all of that. We're very confident we're going to.
So we didn't really use it, did we?
That's right.
Yeah. That's how good you are.
We try hard. When we stand here and promise, we take it serious.
we did not cut the Buncombe County schools. We did not cut the Asheville City schools. We did not cut AB Tech Junior College.
That's right. We did not ask them to participate.
Because every other department took cuts. You mentioned the different variations of them. And because that just shows we're going to do that for education.
Yes, sir.
And that's great. You did a super job, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to each of you. The real thanks goes to you for creating the environment that lets us get these jobs done, for supporting us, and for taking some risk and making some decisions that are not always easy to make. We appreciate that, and we know that your commitment to public service is just remarkable.
So we basically ask you to do four things. Keep the tax rate the same.
Yes, sir.
Education the same as Vice Chair Stanley's just established. We've asked you to keep the core services where they are. And we also ask you not to have people lose their jobs. So you said 93 positions were eliminated. And you've gotten jobs or found jobs for these folks, all but just a handful. Is that right?
That's true. I mean, and some people did retire out of the 93, so but they're not looking for employment elsewhere.
So what is the number of folks that do not have jobs after this budget?
We're thinking we're at about 6 right now. Still working on that, but we're thinking we're at about 6.
So out of 1,421 county employees, I think was the number you gave.
Yes, sir.
This budget, in these times, we've only lost 6 jobs.
Yeah, and we're still working with folks to try to get them placed.
Well, I salute what everybody said, echo it. That's just wonderful that we're able to do the core services and do what we need to do for people.
Chairman, I move to set the budget hearing for June 7th.
I second that motion.
Motion by Vice Chair Stanley, second by Commissioner Peterson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We will have a budget hearing, the next meeting, June 7th.
And I think we owe a round of applause to Dr. Green.
Ooh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next order of business is our board appointments. Environmental Advisory Board, 3 reappointments. Any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Bob Jolly, Tony Candler, and Michelle. Will you help me, please? Her last name.
Lease.
Lease.
That's close, yeah.
Yep.
All right, any other thank you. Commissioner Peterson, any other nominations? All those in favor of Mr. Jolly, Mr. Candler, and Ms. Puljanese, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. They are reappointed. Historic Resources Commission, 1 vacancy.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Mr. J. Ray Bailey.
It's kind of scary from where I'm sitting.
And some of us were trying to move this thing along.
Thought my hearing aids were off.
I think very good nomination by both Vice Chair Stanley and Commissioner Bailey. Any other nominations? All those in favor of appointing Mr. Ellenberg say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. He is appointed. Announcements. The next regular meeting of this board will be June 7, 2011 at 4:30 p.m. Commissioner meetings can be seen on BCTV, Charter Cable Channel 2 on Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m., Wednesday at 3 p.m., Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m., or online anytime at buncombecounty.org. Next up, we have public comment. This is comment only. We will take questions. We will not answer them here. We will answer them at a later time. And I think we've already said we do have a closed meeting
Closed session, yes, Mr. Chairman, on the basis of one matter, economic development under 143, 318, 11A4, and we're just looking for direction from the board on that matter.
All right. Pleasure the board to continue on, break. Continue on? Continue on. Public comment, 3 minutes, name, address. This is public comment. Yes, ma'am, you may go, and you can go next, sir.
Hello, I am Reverend Lisa Landis, better known as Glow Lady, Glolady, and we're coming up on Memorial Day. That's at the end of the month, and that's to remember all those who died fighting for our rights and our freedom. In 1997, I participated in a 900-mile Veterans March from Melbourne, Florida to Washington, D.C., and it wasn't until we were arrested for walking on 95 that national media came in. So what are you doing? But at that time, I also found out that mass media lies and doesn't always tell the truth. And that's why it's so vitally important that the public has a voice, why we have our First Amendment, so that we, the people, can speak. And it would be so disappointing to think of all of those who have died fighting for my First Amendment rights, and how sacrilegious it would be if I could not speak and I could not hold my government accountable. Whether it's right or whether it's wrong, I've sat here and I've listened to the budget. I listened to what you say and how you pat each other on the back. But you know, last week when Jerry had stood up here, or 2 weeks ago when Jerry had stood up here and had said that, you know, you guys really should be, you know, giving us an award. Do you like my shirt? URTV, where the inmates run the asylum, because we have to be crazy to do what we do for no money. And it's like now the few of us who have worked don't make any money because I lost my job because that's what I used to do. I used to work for other producers there. So when you're talking about how many thousands of people who have lost their jobs or didn't lose their jobs, it's like, you know, I have to wonder why. And then in looking at that budget, you know, which I'm going to really be looking for the next one meeting, and it's like $1,500,000 that you're getting from the what is that? What? Thank you. And there's no expenditures in there. It's like, well, wait a minute. If you're getting $1.5 million and you're not giving URTV funding, I, you know, kind of wonder why you want to shut up my voice. Because it's only because the public has URTV that the public can speak. Because I know mass media lies. I know that they don't always tell the truth. And this is our way that the public can and will hold our government accountable for our right to speak and our right to practice whatever religion and our right to hold the government officials accountable to criminal acts. So I thank you and I look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, Reverend Landis. Yes, next up, sir.
Brother Christopher, start out with some sayings. Pharaoh said to Moses and his people, after he contracted for them to make bricks, hey, go make bricks without straw. You go pay for it yourself. Marie Antoinette was credited, actually it was her mother, when the wheat was rotten in France. She said, let them eat cake. There was no wheat to make cakes because there was no wheat to make bread. And to give it to you as you have given it to us, where's the meat? Or actually, as according to the Wendy's, where's the beef? See, we already paid for URTV, folks. Miss ex-city council lady, you don't even know the process of public access.
Okay.
There was already a paid
You're not going to get into that. You're not going to talk about it personally. You're going to sit down. You got it, Mr. Christopher?
I will promise not to.
All right, brother. I hope you got it then, okay? Go ahead.
All right, to all of you.
All right, go ahead.
You have forgotten what public access is about and the fact that it was already paid for. There have been comments made by this board that we should be bringing in money. That's like saying, you bought the hamburger, go and pay for it again. Any money that we bring in through, like they did with the Mo Daddies and stuff, should go for things that you have not already provided. See, we already paid. See, at first it was pay grants. So only charter people paid for us. Then it was turned into what everybody screamed it was, a tax. So everybody now pays for public access. They have paid for the burger. When are we going to get it? Now, I've heard that there might be, according to conspiracy theories, a new public access coming out without the original people, and they asked me if I would have a flack about it, and you dang right I would. Number one, you manipulated Blackwell and them to fight URTV about money. That's a good magician's trick. You got everybody focused on the fact that maybe URTV was misappropriating funds, when in truth, it was this county which was misappropriating from the beginning. Now, this attorney can tell you this. If you go to someone and offer them someone without the intent of giving them their product, it's called obtaining money by fraud. It is a felony. This county commission had gone to the state of North Carolina and said that we need as they certified, $274,000 to run public access. You certified it. You lied to the state. You lied to the people. You said the burger is going to cost you $2.74. Then you said, thank you for the $2.74. Thank you for the $1,300,000 more to go beyond that, and we're still not going to give you the hamburger. Cursed is this board until they do. Because as of tomorrow, I will be seeking not...
That's enough. Just get out.
All right, I'll be
That's
seeking,
good. Have a good day, sir. Next up. Next up.
Thank you for the press.
Anybody else want to have public comment tonight? Yes, ma'am. Blonde lady in the back.
My name is Connie Napick Staley. I was a producer at URTV, but I just wanted to share something with you. A lot of the people that watch URTV or watched it were shut-ins themselves, and I think that was so important that we could give that back to the community. I was a shut-in myself personally, in a wheelchair in a coma and expected never to walk again. And one of the hardest things for me was the fact that I lost touch with my community. I couldn't get out in it. I couldn't walk in it. I couldn't do the things I wanted to. I could watch WLOS and get a little glimpse of Asheville, in the news, but I couldn't really see hear the voices and see Asheville. And I realized that was one of the reasons I volunteered, because we could make a difference. We could talk to the shut-ins that were watching us and say, this is going on in Asheville. We're part of Asheville. We're talking to you. And I think that is so important. We had Jeff Turner is in here tonight, but he has a list of many shut-ins that we're asking for URTV to being reinstated right now. So I just wanted to bring that up, that maybe that's an angle, because we get so emotional about this, maybe that's an angle we're not thinking of. We kind of lose touch of this. Isn't about us producers. It is about our citizens and what we can do to help them as volunteers. I will go on volunteering. I'll find something else, but I know, because I love this, I love Buncombe County. I love every bit of it. And I'll find something. But what breaks my heart is I won't be able to reach the people like I did before. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. Any other public comment? Yes, sir, in the back.
Good evening, David King from Candler. I didn't know what URTV was until about a year ago. And since that's come before the board, I've started taking note and watching a little bit of it. And I understand their passion, but I think this board has acted in a good stewardship way with what they have done. I would also like to thank Councilwoman Jones for taking the lead. I understand their passion, understand their desire to have this, but it's not the responsibility of the citizens or the Buncombe County to pay for someone's public speech. Yes, it should be there, it should be accessed, but it's not the taxpayer or the Buncombe County's responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any other public comment? Doctor, in the back? No, sir. Dr. Byrd, please. You'll be next after Dr. Byrd. Unless you're a doctor, too. I don't think. Okay, working on it.
Good evening. Dr.
Dr. Milton Byrne. I'm a Buncombe County resident. First off, in looking at your budget, I have some concerns I heard that really needs to be understood. First off, if you're seeing an increase in food services of 70%, that's a statement of quality of life that's impacting our society here locally. That is a red flag to me about economics. Of course, there's a lot of red flags out there. Looking at this coming budget, I would ask you to create somewhere in your budget plan an economic moratorium for capital improvement projects with a constructed strategy of phased management in case you have to put a slowdown or brakes on economic expenditures with capital improvements. Because next year I think we're going to see increasing difficult financial times, and I know how important bureaucratic strategy is to manage and balance this challenge we call local government. Having said that, I do want to have further comment on URTV. Having just heard the gentleman from Canton, I want to look at some of the background for everybody to understand. The video sales tax is collected for the following things: public access, education, and government channels. These are state-funded, state law guidelines that already come from the collection of tax base from the taxpayers to provide those financial resources for those three certification processes of the video sales tax. The money is paid by taxes from the citizens. It is through the government and through state government and local government the distribution is mandated and structured under state law. Now, there may be differences of opinions, but the point is I want everybody to understand that public access is a very important commodity for the community at large. It is a very important framework for the First Amendment of the Constitution, freedom of speech and freedom of press. However we go forward, I'm asking all parties to begin looking at problem solving and planning together to go forward and reconstruct something that is critically important for the welfare of the community at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Byrne. Yes, sir. Green shirt.
My name is Frank Arata. I'm a Buncombe County resident, and I'm not here for URTV. I am here to speak about a Buncombe County park that was paid for by taxpayer dollars. It's the Buncombe County Sports Complex in Inca Candler. And seeing it on the slideshow earlier, the soccer fields there are not accessible to the general public. They are leased out to a private entity called the ABYSA. And in the downtime of that company not using the fields, they say that the fields need time to regenerate. So they've kicked me and my friends off of the soccer fields more than one time. And now they lock the nets. And as a taxpayer, I would be, I would be happy to be able to use the park that I've helped create as part of my property taxes. And I would also like to be able to see the kids from my neighborhood be able to play soccer instead of maybe getting into trouble or doing something they should not be doing in their downtime. So I think it would be beneficial for all people involved to let us use the soccer fields that we played for in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Juan, can we have Fran Thigpen perhaps calling? Sir, Frank?
We'll,
come back. I mean,
we will. I'll follow him and get his information. Yes, we will have him talk to her. But he does make a very valid point in that ABYSA does have those.
Yeah,
yep.
That's what we did them for. So we and
they're
you know
not
they're
using them out because they got a bunch of kids that use them, but that's AB whatever they are. They're not there. You need to be there.
Well,
I appreciate that. I spoke with the Parks and Rec Department about it last week, and I didn't get anywhere with it. So
you'll get somewhere now.
She'll get it.
I appreciate that.
And she'll get your name and number, and you get back with us if you don't hear something, and you will hear something. I don't think there's any doubt about it. So thank you for coming and asking. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Public comment. Any other? Yes, sir, Mr. Fryer.
Good evening, Commissioners. Been interested in that. Going back to, I was looking at some stuff as far as what the sheriff and them were talking about, and needing another $196,000 for part-time people. We all just approved about $36,000 for 3 people that work for him. I went through some of the paperwork I have, and the people that worked for the previous sheriff and still work for this sheriff that are on the lower chair, their raises has been 17% to 19%. Then I looked at the majors from previous administration to this administration, and when they were at $79,000, they were 19% above the previous administration. With the raise that they received, now they're 36% above what the previous administration was. There's some questions that's been asked, and I have some paperwork from Mr. Frew stating that they generated, there must be paperwork in here, and I'd like for the commissioners or somebody to tell Ms. Green or Mr. Thornberry, there's got to be a piece of paper that didn't come with this, because the raises was not asked for grade 80. They were asked for grade 86. Grade 80, they went to the top, 92,000. Grade 86, that would have got them into the 100,000 bracket. But I would like to have that piece of paper, and as commissioners, and I've had a gatekeeper put on me. That's Mr. Frew, and I try to be good and I try to be honest, but I have paperwork stating he only wanted to give raises to 2 majors. He has as a chief deputy, a major. The chief deputy is supposedly over the 2 majors. Why wasn't he giving him a raise? From what I understand, when the conversation with Ms. Green, she couldn't feel like that she could give just 2 majors the raise, but that was all it was asked for. But so she gave all 3 majors raises. So I'm asking to please, Ms. Green, somebody, Mr. Frew, Mr. Thornberry has this paperwork. They can redact or do whatever they want to do, but there's a number bigger than $92,000. Thank you.
All right. You're entitled to public information. If we can give Mr. whatever within our law, we will give you what you're entitled to.
Just for the board, if you don't remember, I have given him the public record responsive to that request, and there's no other record that we're able to provide him.
All right, sir. Any other public comment tonight? Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jerry Rice from Candler. I like to went to sleep watching the budget process today. Nice music, nice buildings, beautiful, sounded good. But I think the doctor is much more eloquent than I could ever be. I think he said what I've been trying to say. He said it in a matter of a few words. But he's got a great education. Maybe I didn't get mine from Buncombe County. I've been cheated out of it. I need a little more. But I think in the 20 years I've been here, I've been getting a lot of education that you don't get in school or in a book. But there is a point that he made, and it's been made right here in this budget message, and it needs to be sunk home. 52.5 tax rate for the last 5 years. Don't tell me that you ain't increasing in the budget tax rate and the money, because I gave you the CD from Department of Revenue that showed millions of dollars. Seemed like it's about 47 in the last 5 years. What I don't understand is how we talk about jobs in our community and bettering the quality of our life. AB Tech making quality workers for years and years, and talk about how many millions it's coming in here in jobs and opportunities for jobs, and incentives that's coming here later for $350,000 or better on a couple of different places. My concern is this. Whenever you hear the human resource person on the video, I thought it was the highlight of everything that was put out. When you hear the percentage of people that is in destitute, that is good people, good, hard-working people working 2 and 3 jobs, and people that are in the medium income anyway. And then we talk about jobs and what we're doing for Buncombe County citizens. My gosh, this is emergency. And we're living in a community that tells us every time we come to the commission meeting what a great job we're doing making jobs for our citizens. And our citizens are dying on the vine, and their children are having to leave here and go get jobs at other places downstate where they do pay money, real money. The only thing we're getting here in Buncombe County is crumbs off the table from AB Tech's contribution to our citizens here in Buncombe County. The job wages is not sustaining us, or our social service department wouldn't have the caseloads that they're having right now if we had the sustainability that's supposed to have been put in place years ago.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rice.
Thank you.
Any other public comment tonight?
Move on to private session.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Stanley to go in private session, second by Commissioner Bailey. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We will go in, we're in closed session. Thank you.
Good times.
Shake their I think she's never seen anything like that.
It's definitely something to see. Oh, yeah, thank you. Good to see
Well, if you had, I'd have got up and Holly and I would got up and walked out.